Hello and welcome to Runkle of the Bailey. My name is Ian Runkle. I'm a Canadian criminal defense and firearms lawyer. Today's episode is brought to you by a co-star, which is a glass of nice scotch. The reason for that is I'm going to be discussing a post that came up on Reddit's Legaladvice subreddit. Let's bring that up here. This is why I drink. So we see here, I pointed a gun at a child approximately 8 to 10 after he fired a rifle, nearly hitting me in the process. Okay. I will go through this. The title sounds bad. Yes, it does, anonymous stranger. They use this is clearly a throwaway title here. But I'm currently under investigation by the Canadian government for pointing a firearm at a child after the child in question fired a rifle, an SKS, nearly hitting me in the process. What happened was I was at the shooting range, having a nice time firing my weapons, when family, mom, dad, 2 sisters, and a brother, comes to the range. I noticed the boy, around 8 to 10, not being exactly safe with the firearm, pointing the weapon in the concrete ground, leaving firearms unattended while loaded, etc. So I remind him to always keep the gun pointed downrange, and he nods. Keep in mind, the dad went to the other range with the 2 daughters, so it was just me, the boy, and his mother. His mother is not shooting any weapon, just browsing Facebook or playing Candy Crush. I'm getting annoyed that this kid is not following gun safety rules very well, so I remind him again, and he says, And at this point, I realize this kid is obviously not able to be trusted with a gun. I don't say anything since I don't want a mother and father yelling at me. I am very timid as a person. And not even 30 seconds later, it happens. I am reloading my pistol when I hear the rifle fire and a bullet whiz right past my face. Like if I was firing my weapon at the time, I would be dead. I am pissed at this and tell him to get the F down on the ground, and he does. The mother starts screaming at me, asking what the F I was doing, and telling me to put my weapon down. So I do, while she takes the rifle away from the child, who is crying his eyes out. I ask her why the F she can't control her kid, and she yells at me, and the dad comes back and yells at me for pointing a gun at their little angel. The daughters, on the other hand, actually seem to have a brain and start yelling at their parents, and then a police officer comes by and detains everyone since he saw everything on a range camera. He asks us all questions, then he releases us telling us to leave the range. This happened 2 months ago, and the parents are suing me for child endangerment, resulting in the government investigating me, suspending my PAL, Canadian Firearms License, and seizing my weapons in the process. I have no idea what the outcome might be, since I was legally defending myself. But at the same time, it was a young child who pointed a gun at me. I don't want to be a felon. Good news, you're Canadian. You're not going to be a felon. We don't have felonies. We have indictable offenses here. They're just as bad. But at the same time, I was legally defending myself. What can I do? The first thing you can do is stop posting to Reddit. If you ever have something like this happen to you, the first thing your lawyer will say is to shut up. And shut up means don't do this. Sure, the guy used a throwaway. You know, a throwaway is a really great idea because it means that your friends and family might not recognize this. In order to recognize this, you'd need to be someone intimately familiar with these facts. Like, say, the police, the CFO, the people suing you. Posting to Legaladvice is pretty much one of the dumbest things you can do in a situation like this, because you don't enjoy any privilege with respect to a Reddit post. And I've had this sent to me by a number of people, many of whom screenshotted it. Now, of course, it's preserved here as well, but it's going to be around. It's going to be seen. I'd feel bad for the fact that I'm sharing this post here, except that it's already going to have been out there. That's not my doing. That's your doing, anonymous poster. This post also is just full of bad decisions from the beginning to the end, and that's on everybody's part. I imagine the chief firearms officer, upon going through all of this, is going to be sitting there like Oprah. You get your license revoked, and you get your license revoked. Everybody gets their license revoked. Because we've got on one hand people failing to properly supervise a child with a firearm. So careless use of firearm, criminal offense, and also good enough to get you a firearm prohibition. And it nearly results in a death here from what we hear. But on the other hand, we have pointing a firearm. And contrary to the self-defense claim, it's probably not going to be found to be self-defense if we're talking about a situation. I mean, I don't know. Maybe there's some need to point the gun to prevent the child from firing again or the like. But, this is a bad scenario. I will sometimes, and it's rare, the range I shoot at is typically occupied by very responsible gun owners. I haven't seen, and occasionally somebody gets banned, but I haven't seen any bad behavior at this range myself. At a previous range that I used to shoot at, which has since been shut down, I did see somebody who was behaving badly with firearms. They kept turning with a handgun in their hand and muzzling me in the process, which of course I don't appreciate. But my solution to that was to leave the scene, because if you've got something where you're thinking that this is dangerous enough that it's posing a threat, you either need to intercede, and frankly, you're saying you're very timid as a person, and then pulling a gun on a kid. I don't know if that's timid. That seems like a pretty bold step to me. But, you've got some responsibility here, because that kid equally, it's equally likely that kid looks down the barrel and hits the trigger, and you'd feel real bad. I hope that you'd feel real bad about not stepping in there. Everyone involved here, to greater or lesser degrees, has done something dumb. But to post this online, never post this online. I will tell you, the legal advice, lawyers, actually, a lot of lawyers read legal advice. We don't post there, but we read it. And the reason why we read it is because it's hilarious. The information that's given to people, the advice that's given to people is often ludicrous, just bizarre. But you're essentially posting a full confession to the world at large. It just boggles my mind. Don't do this. How should you react? Let's say that for some reason you've lost your senses and you decide, and all of this happens. All of this, there's so many bad decisions here. It's just frustrating. But let's say all of this happens to you in some fashion or another. What should you be doing? Well, first thing is shut up. Keep your mouth shut, because the less information you leak out to the world, and especially leak out to the other side, to the RCMP, or whichever police department is in the area, to the CFO, the better. Call a lawyer, somebody who knows the area right away, because now you're in serious trouble. Like, everything about this says I am in serious trouble. There's nothing about this that says things are going to work out in the end. There's nothing about this that says this is a minor incident that is not going to affect my life in a big way. Pointing a firearm is a serious charge. And pointing a firearm at a child, can you imagine the judge? Especially if you happen to be in an area where the judge you get is likely going to be someone who doesn't. Honestly, normally I'd say you need to worry about a judge who doesn't have firearms or doesn't know firearms. Gun owners aren't going to be thrilled with this either. This is not somebody I want on my range. Any of these people. I don't want any of these people near me. And here's my favorite part. And this is just, I shake my head at this. Sorry for the really bad grammar. I have terrible writing skills. Buddy, the grammar is the last thing you need to be apologizing for here. Everything else is what you should be sorry about. But you need to be aware that you're looking potentially at serious jail time over something like this. And you've just admitted to the fact that you're reloading your pistol when you turn and... Oh. Yeah. This is all sorts of frustrating. It's everything you shouldn't be doing. Every step of this is what you shouldn't be doing as a gun owner. Don't point firearms at other people if it's not absolutely necessary in the circumstances. And here, it doesn't seem like it was likely to have been absolutely necessary under the circumstances. I don't know. It sounds like there's range cameras. They can figure that out later. But if somebody's doing something unsafe, the proper thing is to get away from that person or intercede if it's safe to do so. And above all, don't post confessions online. Talk to a lawyer. Your conversations with a lawyer, so long as they're not in a public forum, enjoy confidentiality, which means that lawyer doesn't talk about your business. They keep their mouth shut. And also privilege, which means that the court can't even inquire as to what's going on. If you imagine then this is a somewhat ridiculous example, but the Crown says, and now we want to call this guy's lawyer because he's probably going to be a witness because he will have been told all sorts of things about what this guy did. The court will say, no, you can't call him as a witness because all of that will be privileged. It's not just that the lawyer keeps your secrets. It's that there is a legal barrier that prevents anybody from breaching it, absent some very specific and narrow exceptions that I'm not going to go into. Oh. Yeah, this is terrible. Everything about this is terrible. And that's all I really have to say about this. I saw this. Several people have shared it with me. I thought I'd share it with you with some commentary, but it needed a co-star for this one. So thank you for watching. I hope you found this, I'd say educational, but I'm really not sure what you should be learning from this other than don't do this. But I hope you found this educational or at the very least entertaining. Please like, share, and subscribe. It really does help. Thank you to my $10 Patreon supporters, my buddy Keith, Process Eng, and Stephen Larson. Until next time, I hope this has armed you with some knowledge, and I hope not to have to make another video like this one for a long time. Thank you.